Dajiao, hi guys, it's Shanae and welcome back to my channel. And today I'm continuing my read along for Disabled Tyrant's Beloved Pet Fish. I almost mixed those words around. We're on volume 4. We're relatively deep into it, I think about halfway. And yeah, sorry for being a little bit late. I originally wanted to do a live stream on Saturday as well, and then life got in the way, so I'm not going to be promising anything this week, but it is still in my mind to do some catch up live streams if the opportunity does arise. So we'll see how it goes, but other than that, we're definitely still continuing with the Monday live streams as is. So yeah, hi, if you're new here, I'm Janae, I read Danmei, and we are currently on the final volume of this, so if you want to check out the preceding live streams to it, there is a playlist. I have coffee here with me. I get up about like every hour and just take a 10-minute break, get some new tea or coffee or whatever, and then come back and read for another hour, or more or less another hour. Hi, how are you? Oh goodness. So yeah, I'm very excited because I've been reading in my own time a dystopian that is not all sunshine and rainbows. So I am very much looking forward to reading this right now. So anyway. I think considering I am doing a lot better, thank you. Considering I was late, I feel like maybe I should just get started immediately. I hope the audio is okay today. The mic is as close to my mouth as I can make it, and I tried to heighten the sound. It's very hard to judge because every single time I check it ahead of time with my headphones, it seems fine, and then I still get feedback that it's quite quiet. So sound mixing and I just were never meant to be. But yeah, I hope this one is okay. So let me just get Apollo, and then I think we can get going. So for anyone who I cannot for the life of me remember where we left off, it should be this. Let me just double check. Okay, so we left off with the guards being told they needed to wear some kind of padding to try and protect themselves against the potential poison. I feel like that's where we left off. We will or did wait, no, I think we might be one page on. Okay, yeah, sorry, we're one page on. So we're on page 208 for anyone who wants to follow along. So again, we were with Xiaoyu as he and the prince are storming the well, not the emperor, but the palace. She really wanted to kill him, the emperor, but she couldn't. If the emperor died, the country would still belong to his son or grandsons. Princess Langya had spent decades meticulously planning this. How could she let something she'd worked this hard for fall into someone else's hands? Princess Langya's expression darkened when she learned who was leading the defending forces. She ordered her guards to bring the emperor, Prince Jing, and two younger princes outside of... Okay, wait, I said Xiaoyu and the prince, but the prince is still being held captive, my bad. Um, she ordered her guards to bring the emperor, Prince Jing, and two younger princes outside of Chenqing Palace. If she couldn't obtain the country, then she would eradicate the emperor's bloodline. No, no. Well, she might just run into the hero's protective halo, I hope. When Prince Li and the Duke of Chang'an arrived, Princess Langya threatened them with the emperor's life, screaming, "If you take one more step forward, I'll kill the emperor. He won't even leave an intact corpse." Prince Li, concerned for the emperor's safety, stayed outside Chenqing Palace with the defending troops and didn't dare enter. Archers from either side kept fighting, and more soldiers were killed. Princess Langya's men were outnumbered by the soldiers, and they lost their archers one after another very quickly. Seeing this, Princess Langya took out her sword and lunged towards the emperor, wanting to take him with her in death. But before she knew it, Prince Jing had moved in front of the emperor and deflected her sword with his dagger, placing it at her throat. Princess Langya's lovely face turned pale. "Weren't all your weapons taken?" Prince Jing's sword had been taken before he entered the palace, and he had handed over the dagger in his boot. That was why Princess Langya felt it was safe to put Prince Jing and the emperor together. So where did he get this weapon? Prince Jing smiled slightly. "I had a dagger for self-defense already, but my consort gave me another just before I came." If he hadn't handed over his first weapon, Princess Langya wouldn't have let her guard down. How else would he get so close to the emperor and get the tiger talisman? When he pretended to give up his dagger, he had already thought of a plan to defeat her. Princess Langya laughed wildly. Yet Qing Yan noticed that the emperor was no longer in danger and shot an arrow at her. I'm stressed. Prince Jing's dagger struck at the same time. Princess Langya was attacked from both directions. No matter which one she dodged, the other would strike her. Princess Langya let out an eerie smile, then dodged the arrow and took Prince Jing's dagger. "There's no more time to kill the emperor. There's no more time. Then I'll kill Prince Jing, who should have died long ago," she murmured. "Those of us from Luolan hide our most powerful skill within our bodies. Shuzi is nothing compared to that. The most powerful poison of Luolan is called Without a Trace." She smiled in despair and misery, and abruptly used the dagger to pierce the mechanism in her body, making several streams of liquid burst out. "Tianchi!" Ye yelled. He wanted to run over, but he was far away and densely surrounded by Ye Qingyan's people. Princess Langya's movements were fast, but Prince Jing was always on guard against her. When she held the dagger as if she was going to kill herself, he knew it was a trick and didn't move to stop her. Instead, he kicked a table over and blocked all of the corrosive liquid that came out of her, deflecting the poison. I will give it to him, considering they've experienced this before, so it's not as if this is his first rodeo. If he had never encountered something like this before and just happened to know how to deflect it, I would have had some questions. Princess Langya couldn't believe that this trick, the pride of Luolan, had been rendered useless. Prince Jing finished the job with his dagger. Before she died, she glared at the emperor with a gaze full of hatred and spewed curses too quiet for anyone but herself to hear. Soon after, she disappeared into the corrosive liquid. The soldiers charged through Chenqing Palace and defeated the rest of the Luolan forces. A gaggle of imperial physicians rushed over to check the emperor's pulse. Head Eunuch Law, who'd been imprisoned in a nearby palace for some time now, was rescued by the defenders and returned to the emperor, crying and laughing as he kowtowed. Prince Jing moved against the crowd, looking for a familiar figure. He'd taken just a quick glance earlier when he thought he saw Li Ye and heard his voice. But after he dealt with Princess Langya, the room filled with what seemed to be an ever-increasing amount of people. No matter how he looked, he couldn't find Liu. I hope he's okay. Prince Jing restlessly continued his search. Several guards noticed him and cleared a path for him. Prince Jing saw a donkey circling impatiently. On its back was a person. Liu. Tianchi, you're here? Can help me, please? This donkey won't stop. Liu had found that the donkey wouldn't even stop when he cracked the whip. Yeah, that's usually not how that works. Watching him scratching his head in confusion, Prince Jing couldn't help but smile slightly. Xiaoyu didn't know how to ride a horse, and it seemed he wasn't good at riding a donkey either. Oh my... The title of the next chapter, my goodness. Embrace yourselves. Fish riding husband. I don't know what mental image that's supposed to conjure up, but my goodness. Leah didn't know why the donkey wouldn't stop. After the hidden boss had been defeated, he wanted to fly into his husband's arms and cling to him like an octopus. But at such an important moment, the donkey lets him down. It felt like Ye Qingyan had found him a donkey whose greatest passion was to pull a grinding mill. It wouldn't stop once it started. Let me off. But he didn't dare to try and jump down because his daughter was in his stomach. He was protected in fish form, but not as a human. Prince Jing stared at his fish for a while, dazed, and then walked over. The strange thing was that no matter how many times Liu yelled that he wanted to get off, the donkey ignored him and kept circling. But Prince Jing arrived. For some reason, the donkey stopped immediately. Perhaps the donkey could sense the tyrant's male protagonist's aura. Prince Jing held the reins and smiled. Xiaoyu, are you tired? Ye Qingyan was the tired one here. He'd spent this battle running around, bleeding and sweating. Liu hadn't even run on his own legs, so being tired really didn't enter the equation. He wanted to say, I'm not tired at all. But when he met Prince Jing's dark eyes with his own, his voice suddenly caught in his throat. I'm all right. Liu bit his lip, not knowing why he had changed his answer. His husband was right in front of him. Sob, sob, he wanted to hug him. But this donkey... Though the donkey had stopped, he still couldn't quite clamber off. Prince Jing's eyes were full of love. Xiaoyu said that he was all right, which meant that he was tired, exhausted even. He wanted to put his fish in his sleeve, but there was little he could do in this palace. He smiled and stayed silent. Lifting his robes, he got up and sat behind Liu, hugging him from behind. I mean, you could just help him off, you know? These chapter titles are always so funny. Let's go home, he said. Liu liked to call Prince Jing's manor home, and under his influence, Prince Jing had started calling it home too. His voice was hoarse, but it was better than it had been at the start. He was still recovering, after all. He couldn't be expected to sound like other people did, but it was precisely this sound that Liu couldn't handle. It travelled into his ears, making him go limp and numb. Prince Jing could speak, but he wasn't very talkative, because he had to keep his recovery a secret and because he was used to being silent. Prince Jing rarely spoke of his own accord unless Liu made him practice, but after one night of bedtime activities, Prince Jing found that Xiaoyu was very sensitive to his voice, so perhaps intentionally, Prince Jing had started to whisper into Liu's ears in the specific moments. My goodness. To the fish, it felt like he was going to float into the air and become immortal. My word. Leo blushed. His husband's voice and the sensation at his hips made him squirm. He'd been hugged. His fish brain was instantly occupied with dirty thoughts, and he cleared his throat. It's okay that you're riding this with me? Prince Jing usually rode his horse. Riding a donkey wasn't nearly as dignified. Besides, Leo suspected that the donkey might not be able to support the two of them, but Prince Jing was too shameless to care about his dignity. He sat behind Leo, embraced him, and buried his face in Leo's shoulder, breathing his scent in deep. This was his answer. How could Leo think about other things when his husband was acting this way? It wasn't his fault if the donkey didn't live up to expectations. Leo cracked the whip with a shaky hand, and the donkey started to move, trotting steadily forward with the two people on its back. Yeshiz's jaw almost dropped when he saw both of them sitting on the donkey's back. I feel so bad for the poor donkey. Prince Jing using dirty tricks. Yeah, no. I'm not surprised, but also it's hilarious. Or rather, I'm not surprised that Prince Jing would resort to this. Not so much specifically the fact that the voice has an entire thing going on. Um, mm, Yeshiz's jaw almost dropped when he saw both of them sitting on the donkey's back. He'd chosen a donkey for Liu based on his stature, since it was just right for him. But Prince Jing, a tall, strong man, was crammed behind Liu. It was too much. The Shizu thought that the donkey had it hard, and also thought the two people hugging each other tightly were a little hard to look at. Liu happily waved at him. Yu Qingyan, we're going back. Yu Qingyan came back to his senses. You guys are going back just like that? What about the children? Liu smacked his forehead. He'd really let the lust take over his brain. Now that he was reunited with his husband, he almost forgot about his sons. Shame on you. Leo, whose heart and body had been taken over by Prince Jing, was now completely focused on his four sons. He was about to turn around right there and go back to Chang'an Manor with Ye Qingyan to pick them up when Prince Jing softly laughed. Tell Wang Xi to bring the children back, he said. Yeshize was startled by the sudden sound. He looked around but didn't see anyone else. Who was that, and why did they suddenly order me around? Liu understood Ye Qingyan's confusion. Smiling, he pointed to the person behind him. Yeshize realized something unbelievable. Prince Jing was the one speaking. Tianqi, you can talk now? He said, surprised and overjoyed. It had been the Emperor's idea, so Prince Jing hadn't been able to reveal the fact that he could speak to anyone else. Only the Emperor, Li Yu, and a few others knew. Not much time had passed since Prince Jing had gotten rid of the poison, and he hadn't found a good opportunity to let the House of Chang'an know before Princess Langya showed up. But now that Luolan's power was destroyed, he didn't have to keep it hidden anymore, so he sat upright and nodded serenely. At Chang'an Manor, Leah had only said that Princess Langya had poisoned Prince Jing, which was why he couldn't speak when he was born. He didn't have time to tell them that Prince Jing had actually recovered, so he hardly explained the rest to Ye Qingyan now. Ye Qingyan was so happy he sprinted a few laps on his horse, thinking about how happy his father and grandfather would be when they found out. He felt a bit annoyed that Prince Jing was using him as a messenger again, but it wasn't his first time, so once more wouldn't hurt. He rode his horse even faster than Liye and Prince Jing. Faintly behind him, he heard Liye complaining to Prince Jing, Tianqi, the lotus pond in Chang'an Manor is really small. Ye Qingyan really wasn't sure what to make of that. Leo was telling the truth, though. If he stretched out his merman form, he could almost touch the bottom. It couldn't compare to the pond in Prince Jing's manor, where he could swim about freely. Oh my goodness. Forgot the babies, yes, indeed. Hi. Oh goodness. But also, I go on and on about Wang Shi, and let's not, I'm not undermining Wang Shi's wonderfulness, but I do want to also just give a quick shout out to Ye Qingyan, because he's a real wingman in his own way. Okay. Leah mentioned it in passing, and Prince Jing casually made a note of it, then sent craftsmen to the Chang'an Manor to make a few improvements to the lotus pond. Oh my goodness, he really spoils him. Leah had said he wasn't tired, but by the time they got back to the manor, he was fast asleep in Prince Jing's arms. He didn't have to run about anymore, so it was easy to get sleepy now, relaxed at last in the arms of the person he loved. Prince Jing carefully carried Leah off of the donkey. The donkey relaxed and was about to let out a couple of brays when Prince Jing shot its a knife-like glance. It immediately stopped and allowed itself to be quietly led to the stables by the servants. I'm assuming, like, you better not wake up my husband kind of glance. Prince Jing brought Leah into the room and placed him on the bed. He looked him over several times, and, once he'd confirmed he was truly uninjured, tucked him into the light blue brocade quilt with green edges. He got into bed too and hugged the fish. He'd had no choice but to ask Xiaoyu to deliver the tiger talisman, but Prince Jing still felt guilty about it. If Xiaoyu or their unborn child had been injured, Prince Jing would have stabbed himself without any hesitation. Fortunately, they were both fine, and the situation was over with. Prince Jing held the fish in his arms. It was hard to even remember the frantic state in which he'd spent the previous night in Qianqing Palace. The fish that delivered the talisman to the Chang'an Manor must have run into a lot of dangers. Prince Jing, stuck in Qianqing Palace, had been filled with worry and distress. Leah snored twice in his sleep. He seemed to be uncomfortable, sleeping on his side, and wanted to change to lying on his stomach. But Prince Jing recalled that the imperial physician had said Leah shouldn't sleep on his stomach while pregnant, so he tried to get Leah to sleep next to him instead. Leah's hands and feet roved over him, and once they all found a place, he settled down and continued to sleep soundly. When he woke up, the fish needed a moment to figure out if he was in his fish tank or in the lotus pond. Only when he saw his husband's sleeping face did he remember that they had overcome another obstacle together. Are we going to be checking in on the system? Right about now, I'm a little bit worried, because we still have quite a few pages left, about half a book. Leo stared at his husband's handsome side profile. The more he stared at him, the happier he felt, and he leaned in to sneak a kiss. At the same time, he removed his limbs from where they were draped all over Prince Jing's body. Now that Princess Langya's rebellion was quelled, would the share the country mission be completed? Leo took the chance to enter the system, but he found that the mission was still in progress. It still wasn't over. That stresses me out. But the system had given him... Okay, there's a typo. Had given him a notification in response to the rebellion. Was it because of the throne... Was it because if the throne was successfully stolen, the country and sharing the country with the Tyrant would be gone, so the system gave a clear signal in response to the milestone? It seemed like completing the mission would need to wait until Prince Jing ascended to the throne. Leo wasn't in a hurry. He quickly checked in on the 4 children through the fish children status function. The children were back already. Since he and Prince Jing were resting, Wang Shi hadn't wanted to bother them, and so he'd taken the young masters to play in the manor instead. The 4 children were playing hide and seek with Wang Gong. Leo smiled and exited the system. When he woke up, he found that his hands and feet, which he'd previously taken off of Prince Jing, were now entangled with his husband again. How did that happen? Normally when he entered the system, he'd lay there like a corpse, not cling to the others. Did he sleepwalk? I wonder. No, Leo realized that Prince Jing was the one who held him, pulling him closer. So Prince Jing was the clingy one. How cute. Leo smiled and kissed his husband, wanting to pinch his nose and wait for him to open his mouth to breathe before using his fishy kisses skills on him. Oh, I would. His plan was flawless, but in reality he'd only just placed his fingers on Prince Jing's face when his eyes opened. I wasn't gonna do anything bad. That was a thought that wasn't said. The flustered fish was seen through immediately and kissed to pieces. But the children settled in their rooms. It was the right time and place. They hadn't done it since Leo found out he was pregnant, and he really wanted to right now. He tugged on Prince Jing's sash, giving him clear signals. They were so close to that every change in the other was obvious. Prince Jing glanced at his flat stomach. When he'd asked the imperial physicians before, they said that sex was not recommended during the early stages of pregnancy. Though he wanted to, he knew he had to restrain himself. It'll be fine, Leo tried to persuade him. He really wanted it. She's not fragile. I swam around and even rode a donkey. As long as we go slower than usual, it should be fine. My word. Leo tried his best to flirt, but he was still a bit shy. He fiddled with the quilt as he blushed and said, I'm not very good at riding donkeys, but riding I'm still good at. He shot a look at Prince Jing after he quickly mumbled his way through the end of the sentence, but Prince Jing's hearing was quite good, and he heard it all. To prove that he could do it, Leo changed his position to a more suitable one. The lusty fish looked down, his eyelashes nervously fluttering like butterfly wings as his cheeks and ears turned red. He looked cute and tasty. Prince Jing's gaze was heavy as he straightened himself and kissed his consort. In his hoarse voice he said, Then let's give it a try. Well, that restraint didn't last long, did it? My goodness. A fishy should... Oh my goodness, yes. Okay. On to the next chapter. Chapter 136. Number 1 fish in the world. Princess Langya's rebellion had been quelled, and because her corpse had melted into nothing, her family bore the brunt of the emperor's fury. The elderly Chang'an Jin, Princess Langya's father, knelt on the golden bricks of Qianqing Palace for an entire day and night until he couldn't even straighten his back anymore. In the end, he passed out. Originally, he had sent his daughter into the palace to protect the Luolan people and so that she would be well taken care of. But Princess Langya had misunderstood him. Not only had she killed Empress Xiao Hui and the 4th prince, she'd even attempted to overthrow the empire. When Princess Langya had first tried to kill the emperor, the entire royal family of Luolan had been turned into slaves. This time, perhaps even the king of Luolan's life wouldn't be enough. The emperor executed all of Princess Langya's subordinates. As for the other Luolan royalty, he didn't kill them all. Instead, he sent them to guard the tombs of Emperor Xiaohui and the 4th prince, so they may pay for this crime for generations to come. He also conferred the title of prince to the 1st and 4th princes, who had died too early. Oh, goodness. As for Prince Jing's wet nurse, poor Liu, who left clues behind for them, despite Princess Langya's coercion, the emperor rewarded her with a lavish funeral. Princess Langya had a servant who knew martial arts. Because he refused to give in, he'd been killed by the guards. Later, it was discovered that this servant had also changed his appearance, but his original appearance had been very ordinary. It was strange that he'd felt the need to disguise himself in the first place. We're gonna have to remember that, because I feel like that's gonna be important. The news travelled from head eunuch Luo to Liu. After some careful questioning about the servant's appearance, Liu found himself recalling the servant who had forced poor Liu to take the poison. They had never been able to find that servant. Since Princess Langya was behind it all, perhaps that was the servant in the memory. Princess Langya had caught the emperor completely off guard. It served as a warning. The palace was not a peaceful place. In order to completely rid the palace of any remaining Luolan influence, the emperor thoroughly investigated every single person in the palace. The investigation unearthed some old incidents, and the emperor had no choice but to address them all. It left him in a terrible mood, one that didn't seem to be improving. Emperor Xiaohui and the fourth prince were harmed by Princess Langya, but she'd done that because of him. If he had made a different decision in the beginning, he thought, if he had been a bit more cautious, a bit more careful, perhaps Emperor Xiaohui and the fourth prince would still be here with them today. But there was no medicine in the world that could cure regret. He had lost his wife forever. The emperor suspended the court for several days, dispirited and listless, and had no energy to pay attention to the harem. Head eunuch Luo was out of ideas and secretly asked Prince Jing for help. He spent almost all his time around the emperor and knew very well that when the emperor's spirits were down, the little Shizi was the most effective medicine. This time it would be best if all 4 children could come. Leah understood head eunuch Luo's difficulties. The emperor couldn't remain trapped in his own self-blame. There were still many military and national issues the emperor had to take care of, so they needed him to recover as fast as possible. Of course, the emperor carried on like this. Perhaps Prince Jing could ascend to the throne more quickly, but selfishly, Leah didn't want Prince Jing to take this shortcut. Prince Jing's relationship with his father had improved a lot lately. He truly hoped that the two of them could overcome their original distant relationship and get back on the right track. Yeah, and you also don't want to have to deal with him, like Prince Jing, taking on the role of emperor very early on, and then he's having to be more distant from his children, and whatever relationship there is between him and the emperor will become strained again. Just a lot of messiness that's not necessary. Prince Jing shared this position. When head eunuch Luo came, Prince Jing nodded without hesitation. He exchanged a glance with Prince Jing and instantly understood. Rather than the throne, Prince Jing preferred to maintain the precious relationship he developed with the emperor. There we go. Fishy babies to the rescue. Oh goodness. Very good. As expected of the man this fish has chosen, even if his character setting was a tyrant, he was becoming more and more human. Leo was very proud of his husband. If he'd had his fish tail right now, it would be high up in the air. Soon after, Leo and Prince Jing entered the palace with the children to see the emperor. When the emperor heard the children's babbling, the corners of his mouth really did go up. Inside, Dabao's soft white little fist was a piece of candy. He stumbled towards the emperor. This was something the Fish brothers had recently discovered that was as delicious as the peach blossom pastries. Dabal was eager to share it with the Grandpa Emperor. Oh my goodness. Grandpa, eat candy. Dabal placed the sweet in the emperor's palm, then patted the emperor's hand carefully. Erbal, Sunbal, and Sabal also extended their hands. When they opened their fists, they each had a piece, although Erbal who loved to eat, only had half a piece. Eat candy, be happy, the children all tried to say at once. This was something their wet nurse, Madame Chin, had said to them once when she was feeding them candy. Dabal had a good memory, so hearing it one time was enough for him to remember it, and he taught it to his brothers. The emperor held the four children, tears streaming down his face. Although the candy the children presented him seemed to be covered in spit, he still ate all of them. That's true love. You know that's true love. The past was unbearable to look back on, but he had these tiny grandchildren now. For their sake, he had to pull himself together again. Tianchi, thank you, the emperor chuckled. Say, why didn't you bring your pet fish? He did, just not in the form you're used to seeing him. His mood seemed to have improved. Seeing Prince Jing, he recalled all the loyal subjects who'd stood by him amid Princess Langya's rebellion. Prince Jing, Prince Li, General Hu Wei, Ye Qingyan, the Duke of Chang'an. Though the emperor was in a sorry state that day, he remembered everything. And there was Prince Jing's consort. Although he didn't know how to ride a horse, he came on a donkey to try to save him. They were all good people. The emperor decided to write an edict to reward all of them. Of course, he couldn't forget the fish that had delivered the tiger talisman. The emperor thought the fish was very intelligent, and he knew that Prince Jing loved that fish. But he didn't see him bring it on this trip to the palace, so he made sure to ask after it. Prince Jing exchanged a smile with Liu Ye and said something about the fish being in the manor. This fish had contributed to the safety of the country, so although it wasn't present, the emperor thought it was only right to reward it. He was never shy when it came to rewards. I reward the fish with the title of #1 fish in the world. Stop, Leah's head is already big enough. Oh goodness. He said, smiling. #1 fish in the world? Lee repeated it in his head a few times. Prince Jing watched him with a smile. In his opinion, there was no title more suitable for Xiao Yu. Under Prince Jing's appreciative gaze, Lia didn't have the heart to tell him that #1 fish in the world felt a bit odd. His reasoning was sound. After all, #1 lamb in the world, it generally referred to delicious lamb meat. #1 dumpling in the world meant the dumpling was delicious, so #1 fish in the world meant shh. But the high and mighty emperor couldn't take back what he'd already decreed. With complicated feelings, Liu became #1 fish. I mean, if Liu's not gonna say it, I will. There's definitely someone who would agree that he is the most delicious fish in the world. But anyway, later on, Liu tactfully told Prince Jing, and the prince was speechless. It was just as the old saying said, "The benevolent see benevolence, and the wise see wisdom." When it came to Xiao Yu, perhaps it was apt to say, "The gourmand sees gourmets." Oh my goodness, okay. Though there was nothing particularly wrong with this interpretation of the title, Prince Jing licked his lips and said meaningfully, "Fish truly is delicious." Oh goodness, I am on the same level of this book. I don't know how to feel about that. What? Princeton had stopped eating fish ever since he got a pet fish. Why was he saying fish was delicious? Had he eaten fish recently? Leah realized abruptly what Princeton was saying. Leah was not skilled at riding horses or donkeys, but was skilled at riding something else. Once again, started going red. Though the Emperor hadn't been physically harmed during Princess Langya's incident, he quite clearly didn't have as much energy as before. In the past, he would discuss politics with court officials the whole night. Now, hearing the word politics gave him a headache. But he couldn't just ignore the issues that were piling up. The Emperor's gaze fell upon Prince Jing. When he was held hostage by Princess Langya, Prince Jing had stepped forward bravely several times. There was no need to test him any further. He wanted a suitable heir. Prince Jing was the most suitable and the most perfect. He chuckled. Tianchi, since you're here, come help me with something. Prince Jing gave him an inquisitive look. The Emperor ordered Laura Sheng to bring over all the reports that had been piling up. Then he picked up his brush, pointed at the reports, and said half-jokingly, "If you go through all these reports for me, I'll choose you as Crown Prince." Okay. I had a thought, and now it's gone. Oh, yeah, the thing as well is like Tianchi had the tiger amulet, so he could theoretically have like used that to seize power. Maybe I've watched too many dramas, but I feel like I've seen dramas where that's happened before. Or there was a fear of that happening. So I feel like, Prince Jing definitely passed all these tests with flying colors. Leah's eyes widened, but he felt a little impatient. With the way things were now, Prince Jing had saved the Emperor enough times to be the crown prince 10 times over. Why did the Emperor need to dangle it over their heads like this and ask Prince Jing to do paperwork? Did this mean that if he didn't do a good job, he couldn't be the crown prince? Leah was worried about how Prince Jing was going to handle this. Prince Jing did want to be the crown prince, and he wouldn't dally when it came to the Emperor's requests. Without saying anything, he accepted the reports. The Emperor admired his straightforward attitude. Meanwhile, head eunuch Law had to keep wiping sweat off his forehead. He knew something Prince Jing did not. The Emperor had long since prepared the edict announcing Prince Jing as the crown prince. He was just messing around. For some reason, since choosing his heir, the Emperor seemed to have become a bit unreasonable. Somehow Prince Jing had turned into the Emperor's laborer, leaving early in the mornings and returning late at night. Leah had started having some pregnancy symptoms recently, and he had been sleeping too much. He'd fall asleep as soon as the sky started to darken and wouldn't wake up until nearly noon. With Prince Jing busy doing work for the Emperor, Leah barely got to see his husband at all. He'd always fall asleep before his husband got home and wake up after he had already left. If he hadn't had something to wrap himself around every night, he might have suspected that Prince Jing was staying the night somewhere else. Fortunately, no matter how busy Prince Jing was or how late he returned, he always came home to Leah to hold him as they slept. The piled-up reports were finally dealt with. The Emperor was very happy with Prince Jing's work. He was waiting for Prince Jing to kiss up to him a little. Then, with a soaring mood, he'd announce him as Crown Prince. But Prince Jing didn't ask for the title of Crown Prince. He just asked the Emperor to let him go home early. Oh no. Oh, the Emperor is a troll. Oh goodness. He was just as stubborn as his father. Though he wanted to be Crown Prince, he cared about his wife and children more. If the Emperor wanted him to be the Crown Prince, he would eagerly step up to the plate. but if the emperor wouldn't give him the title, he wouldn't try to take it. Shoya had once said, "Things that are yours will end up in your hands in the end, and things that are not yours will never stay in your hands." The emperor sighed. He remembered Leah teaching that lesson to the children too. Why are you in such a rush to get home?" he chuckled. The couple sure had a good relationship. Not even he and the empress had been this clingy back in the day. Prince Jing was afraid the emperor would misunderstand Leah. He's pregnant again," he said carefully. "I think of him constantly." Prince Jing's consort was pregnant again? The emperor was delighted. He no longer cared about the slight mishap before. He sent Prince Jing away in a hurry, and even sent a group of imperial physicians with him, telling them to answer to Prince Jing's every command and not to disturb the consort. When Prince Jing returned, Leah was sitting in a rocking chair in the courtyard, wrapped up in a seaweed green blanket and dozing off. Wang Gongong was playing a game of eagle and chicks with the children. To the side, their pet rabbit and was nibbling on bright green lettuce leaves, while two fat ducks swam together in the pond. They shook their wings, quacking to each other all along with the laughter of the children. All sorts of noises filtered through Leah's ears, and he vaguely heard Wang Gongong chatting with someone. "Our Highness is highly coveted among the aristocracy and nobles. Apparently all of the families have beautiful daughters just at the right age. They all want to come be the prince's side consort." What side consort? Leah had been drifting off to sleep. As soon as he heard about the possibility of arrival, he shot awake immediately. "Calm down. Have you seen the dedication that Prince Jing has to you? There is no way you have anything to worry about." Okay, so oh my goodness, the next chapter is titled Green-Eyed Fish, which I'm assuming they're referring to jealousy. So we'll be back with that at 3 past-ish. But yeah, just quickly gonna go get myself some new tea, and I will see you guys in a bit. Okay, we're back. I hope the audio is still okay-ish. Feel like that's what I settle for these days, is as long as it's okay-ish, we are happy. Um, Hi, sorry I missed you saying hi earlier. My bad, but I hope you're still here and welcome. Okay, let us get going. So, again, for anyone who is following along with the actual text, we are on page 229, chapter 137, Green Eyed Fishy. Leah had just woken up. His temples were pounding and his head was spinning. When he took a good look, he saw that Wang Shi was still playing with the children, not speaking at all. It was probably just a dream. But the dream was horribly real. When Prince Jing's current position, with Prince Jing's current position, it was inevitable that he'd be desired by the other nobility sooner or later. In some ways, the Emperor letting Prince Jing help with the paperwork was already an acknowledgement of his current status. Apparently, being back when the second prince, the Marquis of An, was about to become crown prince, even he hadn't received such treatment from the Emperor, never mind the hot-headed third prince, the Marquis of Ping. But Prince Jing was different. He was the only living son of the late empress. His lone criticized trait, his muteness, had been cured, and he'd even saved the emperor. What reason could the emperor have not to choose Prince Jing? If there were court officials who'd hesitated to support Prince Jing before, they were now following the emperor's wishes. Leah had once heard Wang Shi mention how respected Prince Jing was nowadays, and even if he ignored everything else, the emperor had ordered Prince Jing to attend court lately. Every day after court was dismissed, you'd need more hands than any person to have to count the number of officials who waited to walk the same way as Prince Jing. These people hadn't kissed up to Prince Jing before because the situation had been complicated, but they'd be stupid not to kiss up now. But Prince Jing firmly remembered the emperor's wariness and did not interact much with these people. The exception was Secretary Zheng, who Prince Jing would occasionally exchange a few words with. Zheng Jing, the odds of it, had assisted him back when he worked at the Ministry of Works, so it made sense that they had a bit of a friendship. But when anyone else tried to suck up to him, Prince Jing met them with a cold expression. He wouldn't make it easy for them. When Wang Shi mentioned how respected Prince Jing was now to Li Ye, he kept things happy and light. He didn't dare speak of anything else. Prince Jing was busy helping govern a country, so the weight of taking care of Li Ye was handed to Wang Gonggong. Because this pregnancy was happening in Li Ye's human form, Prince Jing could explain everything to Wang Shi without reservations. I mean, I'm assuming not everything as we understand it, right? He asked him to be very careful. Wang Shi couldn't be more elated that the consort was pregnant again, and he was determined not to say anything unnecessary in front of Li Ye. Naturally, there were ladies who wanted to marry Prince Jing, and there were many of them. But Prince Jing had never paid attention to any of them, nor did he take them seriously, so how could Wang Shi be the one to mention it? Unfortunately, Li Ye was sensitive during his pregnancy, so his subconscious imagined the danger anyway, and the more he thought about it, the more it made sense. Great. In ancient times, all men had many wives. Okay, but number one, you're not a wife. Number two, you've already given him like 4 sons. I don't know what more he would want. Mm. In ancient times, all men had many wives. Lear trusted his husband, but ultimately Prince Jing had to answer to the emperor. If those nobles turned to the emperor when Prince Jing turned them down, and the emperor really did decide to impulsively appoint a few of them to Prince Jing's household, how could they get out of that? Was he supposed to play the role of a fish spirit ripping into a lusty fox spirit? Oh my goodness. But also, I feel like considering that most of the emperor's strife resulted in him taking a concubine that wasn't needed just because he was like kind of, I don't want to say greedy, but in a sense greedy. I feel like he would be particularly silly to go ahead and potentially have his son meet that same fate. That wouldn't do. His husband had to be his and his only. Leo stood up abruptly. Usually he spent a little longer laying around after he woke up, but right now he had absolutely no interest in sleeping. He wanted to find Prince Jing right away. At that moment, Prince Jing just so happened to return with a few imperial physicians. These physicians were all genealogical experts and appointed by the emperor, so Liu never really came in contact with them. At first, he didn't even recognize who they were. The dream he'd been having had jumbled up his brain, and he thought these people were trying to get Prince Jing to marry their daughters. Liu Frozen said aggressively, "You've brought them back to our home?" He'd assumed Prince Jing would definitely say no, whether it was matchmaking old men or beautiful, elegant young ladies. He thought he would ignore all of them. But look at this. Prince Jing had practically brought them right to his feet. It was true after all men were pigs. Damn. So many people just catching strays. His wife was suddenly sad and indignant. Prince Jing had no idea what had happened. Prince Jing's own intellect might be online, but he had no idea where the fish's brain had wandered off to. In his experience, though, if he couldn't understand what Xiaoyu was saying, it would be best to agree with everything he said. Besides, the physicians were here to take Xiaoyu's pulse, so Prince Jing nodded. "Oh, this is gonna be fatal." Leah immediately puffed up like a puffer fish and jabbed a finger right up to his face. "Then are you going to bring their daughters into the manor next?" This was a huge accusation to hit all the physicians with at once. "Consort," one of them responded, trembling. "This old servant's daughter is only 3. Another said weakly, "Consort, this servant's daughter is already a mother to 3 children." Leo suddenly came to the realization that he'd gotten it wrong. Now he took a closer look. He saw those officials were all carrying small medicine cases. Oh, these were imperial physicians. In this world, imperial physicians were considered a kind of official. They had ranks and wore the same clothes as court officials. Leah had just assumed they must be the family of some future possible side consorts. He completely forgot the possibility that they might be physicians. He'd really embarrassed himself now. Yeah, you can say that again. There was no way the number 1 fish in the world could admit to such a mortifying thing. So Leo took a deep breath and immediately switched his demeanor. He smiled at the imperial physicians and extended his wrist. "Imperial physicians, are you here to take my pulse?" The confused imperial physicians finally let out a sigh of relief. "That's right, consort." Watching as Xiaoyu's mood changed before his eyes, Prince Jing knew Xiaoyu had misunderstood something, but his health was more important. Prince Jing decided to put a pin in it for now. He held his laughter and asked the physicians to quickly do their jobs. The physicians were focused on their task, so they didn't pay much attention to the nonsense Liu had said. Everyone knew pregnant people tended to have mood swings, So the imperial physicians and so to the imperial physicians, an occasional bout of anger was no big deal at all. Some pregnant women even cursed their husbands to high heaven right before birth. I mean, can you blame them? Blame it on the hormones. Blame it on the hormones. Oh goodness, yes. When they took his pulse, the imperial physicians all said that the consort was in good health and that the pregnancy was 3 months along. A few of them had heard of this male consort who was capable of giving birth and had been curious about him this whole time. Now that they'd finally seen it for themselves, they could confirm Liya was indeed pregnant. The imperial physician who the emperor had sent to the western border had come this time as well. Last time he'd taken Prince Jing's consort's pulse behind a veil. Quite some time had passed since then, and this time Liya was getting his pulse taken for real. But the physician didn't notice anything had changed. He kept congratulating Prince Jing. After that physician had examined Liya, Prince Jing thought, now the lie about Dabao and the others has been fully covered up. I mean, thank goodness things worked out the way it did. Prince Jing asked the imperial physicians for anything they had to be careful about, then sent them away, telling them to bring good news to the emperor. The outsiders left, and Prince Jing gave Liya an ambiguous smile. Liya knew he was in trouble. He looked at the 4 children pitifully, hoping his sons could distract Prince Jing. But unfortunately, 3 of the children were looking elsewhere. Only Sabao received his father's distress signal. "Sabao, help me!" Liya mouthed. Sabao took a moment to react, but he could tell his fish daddy needed help, so he bravely walked over slowly on his short legs. Liya was delighted as Prince Jing doted on Sabao the most. As long as Sabao whined a bit, everything would be fine. Somehow I don't think this is gonna go the way he hopes. Liya tried to hide behind his son, but Prince Jing had his way of dealing with this too. He glanced at Wang Shi. Wang Shi was about to arrange for the little masters a snack time, so he picked up Sabao, smiling. "Young master, let's go eat peach blossom pastries and candy, all right?" Though Sabao didn't love food as much as Erbao did, he still couldn't resist the double temptation of peach blossom pastries and candy. He'd been playing for a while after all, so he was hungry. Sabao could only blink apologetically towards his fish father. "It's okay, Daddy. Prince Jing will definitely help Fish Daddy." And then Sabao and his brothers left with Wang Shi. This unreliable child. Poor Sabao catching strays. I feel so bad. Was it too late to pretend to be sleepy now? Liya yawned on purpose, pretending like he wanted to return to their room for another nap. Perhaps when he woke up again, Prince Jing could forget what he had done. But Prince Jing had a good memory, and he stopped the fish in time. He pulled him back and wrapped his arms around him firmly. It would be difficult for the fish consort to escape now, even if he had wings. Prince Jing chuckled at the man in his arms. "Xiaoyu, tell me, who wants to enter the manor?" Lia's attempts to refuse to acknowledge the situation had all failed, so his only choice was to tell him what had happened in the dream. Although it was just a dream, Lia was still very angry when he recalled it. "Those women who want to be your side consorts," he said indignantly. Prince Jing cleared his throat. Dreams didn't come from nowhere. He'd already promised he wouldn't take any more wives, so he didn't expect Xiaoyu to have such worries. And the book can be so silly indeed. That is what we're all here for. "Don't worry, there won't be anyone else," he said lightly. What side consort? Prince Jing wouldn't allow anyone else into their bed. He had his fish, and that was more than enough. That sentence, I feel like all of us are gonna need some self-reflection after we're done here. Now that Prince Jing's stance had been made clear, Lear's eyes curved into pleasant crescent moons, but he still didn't forget to ask, "What about royal father?" "He won't do anything either." Prince Jing hugged his jealous little fish and slowly explained something. To be honest, Leah's perception of the current situation was quite accurate. The Emperor had indeed asked Prince Jing about other wives at one point, but after all, marriage was a good way to form alliances. But Prince Jing flatly refused. The Emperor had only brought it up casually. Now that he knew how Prince Jing felt, he had no intention of forcing him. There was indeed officials who'd asked the Emperor, but contrary to Leah's assumptions, the Emperor didn't want to reward those officials with marriage. There were many reasons. One was that the Emperor had once put a lot of effort into arranging Prince Jing's marriage, but all the families he'd approved of had been reluctant to marry their daughters to Prince Jing and had come up with a variety of excuses to refuse. The Emperor could tell they just didn't want to do it. Now that the prince was no longer mute and was held in high regard, about to be the crowned prince, these people had changed their tunes at the drop of a hat. Now they were desperate to send their daughters into Prince Jing's manor. That's actually something I hadn't thought of, and I feel like that is a very reasonable reason for the Emperor to not want to go through with it, because it's like, I can't trust you to have my son and by extension the country's best interests at heart, because when I needed you, when we needed you, you didn't want anything to do with it, but suddenly now that you have something to gain, now you're all for it. So that is very, very telling, I feel. The Emperor's thoughts aligned with Wang Shi's. They'd looked down on his son before, but now they suddenly wanted him. Too late. Besides, Prince Jing's consort was very good, and the Emperor didn't want to upset him for no reason. The Emperor had learned his lesson from Princess Lang. Yeah, yes. What if he appointed someone to Prince Jing who ended up bringing him trouble? Yay, thank you. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to spike the mic if that happened, but I'm so glad that he saw sense. Expanding the royal family was the usual excuse, but clearly that wasn't a problem for Prince Jing. Of course, if Prince Jing decided he wanted some concubines, the Emperor wouldn't stand in his way, but Prince Jing had clearly stated he didn't want any, so the Emperor wasn't going to force him. As for the officials who'd found a way to ask the Emperor responded to all of them flippantly. Unfortunately, even I can't convince Prince Jing. That's what Royal Father said. Prince Jing relayed the Emperor's stance quietly. Leah's face was red, either from embarrassment or shyness. He had misunderstood the Emperor. The Emperor was as human as anyone else. If you were good to him, he wouldn't make life hard for you. With a double guarantee, Leah felt completely reassured. "Sorry," he said, looking down. "I suddenly just couldn't help myself." He didn't know what was going on either. Recently, he kept feeling like there was a burst of anger traveling up to his brain, making his thoughts a little muddled, as though he couldn't quite think clearly. Now that he'd calmed down, he felt like he'd been extremely unreasonable. "It's not your fault. The imperial physicians said you would be a little more sensitive during pregnancy." Prince Jing rubbed Leah's head, showing that he didn't mind. "Besides," he added with a chuckle, "it's because you care about me." He's not wrong. Xiaoyu's personality was straightforward and blunt, and he rarely got mad at him. This was the first time he'd been unreasonable. Even if Xiaoyu was cursing him to his face, he would still like him. If the situation were reversed and Xiaoyu brought a bunch of men home, the result would have been disastrous. Leah had received Prince Jing's reassurance, and Prince Jing didn't have to do hard labor for the Emperor anymore. With his husband's company, Leah's mood improved quickly. Meanwhile, the physicians who'd examined Leah reported their diagnosis to the Emperor. Prince Jing's consort was indeed pregnant. The Emperor couldn't contain his smile. He flipped through the reports Prince Jing had looked through over the last few days. He liked He had wanted to pick a good day to send out the edict, but now he felt like there was no need to wait anymore. There was no time like the present. Why not double the good news? So the emperor ordered head eunuch Law to summon the 6 ministers and Prince Li. He wanted to officially appoint Prince Jing as the crown prince in front of his top officials and the royal family. This feels too good to be true considering we still have like 200 pages left. I'm very, very worried. Oh, okay. Page 239, chapter 138. Fishy Writing Lesson. Prince Li and the 6 ministers had all mostly guessed the emperor's decision already. They just hadn't expected him to decide so quickly, because the last dozen or so years the emperor had never officially named a crown prince. Even if he had treated a certain prince differently, the emperor had stayed wary of him even as he educated him. He never made any announcement too early. Prince Li and the ministers all found Prince Jing extremely satisfactory. They had no objections to choosing him as the crown prince, but as the emperor's subjects, they couldn't just outright agree. A ruler's thoughts were difficult to guess, after all. After careful consideration, they all knelt. Your Majesty is still young. Please give it due consideration. The emperor smiled but didn't say anything. He had thought he was young before too, but after everything that had happened recently, he'd come to the realization that he was no longer in his prime. When Princess Langya attacked, he couldn't even defend himself. It was humiliating, but there was nothing he could do. Even though the danger was temporary and had already passed, the enemy had been too insidious, disguising themselves as someone he never expected. After being under someone else's control, his age was starting to show. No matter how much he rested, his energy levels were no longer what they used to be. Even if he didn't want to admit it, people rarely lived past 70. Considering that, over half his life was already over. He didn't know how many more years he had left. Discovering the truth behind the deaths of Emperor Xiaohui and the fourth prince had been a huge blow to him. He'd been an emperor for a long time, but when it came to some things, he was still powerless. His power and status couldn't bring back his dead wife, nor could it rewind time. It was time to let go of the power he'd been wielding for so long. He tested the waters first, letting Prince Jing handle government matters, and realized Prince Jing did well. Pleased with the results, he thought that since he'd already made his decision, why not just announce it and let go of his power? Either way, he no longer had the energy to care about politics. It was only natural for the crown prince to take over. If he started handling things now, his ascent to the throne could go smoothly. Yeah, and I don't think we really see this happening a lot, especially in dramas where a emperor is actually willing to relinquish his power before it's time, like before he dies, essentially. The emperor only gave a brief consideration, but he'd already imagined the coronation of the future emperor. He was a little shocked, but naming Prince Jing the crown prince meant it was just a matter of time. The emperor quickly let go of his reservations. Despite Prince Li and the ministers' repeated urging, the emperor never changed his mind. In the end, they all expressed they would support all the emperor's decisions. So during the next court session, Prince Li read the prepared edict in front of everyone, officially appointing Prince Jing as the crown prince. This time, the emperor hadn't revealed anything to Prince Jing, so Prince Jing was shocked. What had seemed like a normal court session ended with him becoming the crown prince. He froze up for a good while until, at Prince Li's repeated urging, he finally knelt. In front of the entire court, he thanked the emperor. In that moment, many thoughts flashed through his mind. When he came back to reality, he'd only just finished thanking the emperor. In order to demonstrate how much he valued the crown prince, the emperor smiled and gave him an effusive round of encouragement. Then he ordered the ministers to help the crown prince familiarize himself with the various responsibilities of the 6 ministries and help him take care of the government matters. Once they'd received their orders, the Minister of Rites immediately started preparing for the ceremony. After court, the emperor asked the crown prince to stay behind. Tianchi, how do you feel? The emperor asked. When Mu Tianchi came to the court this morning, everyone was still calling him Prince Jing. After the edict, he'd become the crown prince. It was all so sudden. But he couldn't say that to the emperor, so he just nodded, feeling complicated. The emperor chuckled as he patted his shoulder. Do well. Actually, the emperor had a whole lot to say about this crown prince position, not to mention their father-son relationship that was just starting to improve. He just didn't know where to start. The emperor heard that during the incident with Princess Langya, the Bao had tried to come save him with a tiny slingshot. The child's actions warmed his heart, but he was also fascinated that such a tiny child could be so brave. Did he also want a reward? When he asked Dabao couldn't explain it clearly himself. You're his grandfather, Li had said. It was the natural thing to do. The emperor had witnessed all kinds of plots in his lifetime, and he was used to everyone having an ulterior motive. He'd forgotten that one could still do things without looking for anything in return. That is so sad, my word. We usually just see all the princes fighting for the crown. Yeah, no, definitely. Not gonna lie, not that this and what I'm about to mention is similar in tone in any way, but this is making me want to revisit Nirvana and Fire. Like, I had so much fun with that show. I kind of want to rewatch it now. It was just familial love. The Ba wanted to save him because he was his grandfather, because he was family. The Ba was like that, and so was Prince Jing. Even though Prince Jing never brought it up, the emperor was very aware that if Prince Jing hadn't come to save him that day and had let him be killed by Princess Langya, no one would have blamed him, and Prince Jing might even be on the throne already. But Prince Jing had stepped in. That was proof of the love he had for him. Choosing his words carefully, the emperor said something he never would have before. Tianchi, if you don't disappoint me, I won't disappoint you. The crown prince had never expected that the emperor would be so honest with him. He also nodded slowly, trying to accept it. Oh right, there's something else I've been thinking about for a long time. The emperor looked at the crown prince amiably. He'd already become crown prince, so the emperor didn't think there was any point in beating around the bush any longer. He just said what he was thinking. When you got married on the western border, I wasn't able to attend, and that is still a regret of mine. After the crown prince ceremony, I want to hold another wedding for you and your consort. Tianchi, what do you think? I am here for it. I want to see them in some more fancy red robes. I would happily see that. Back in Prince Jing's manor, on a whim, Leah was teaching Da Bao how to write. Although he was only 1 year old, Da Bao could read many different words. The emperor had hired a teacher just for Da Bao, and every day the teacher would assign Da Bao writing homework. Despite his young age, Da Bao was the most hardworking student in the imperial study room. He always needed to complete whatever the teacher assigned to him. When the other children came home from their lessons, they'd eat a snack and take a nap. But after taking a brief nap, Dabao would get up by himself and have Wangxi carry him to the study to write. Oh my goodness, this is gonna be the most handful of princes ever to grace this world, isn't it? Dabao feels like he is gonna be a very, very busy kid. Normally, he studied under his teacher, and the emperor often taught him here and there as well. He now held the brush properly in his small, soft hands, but the writing really couldn't be considered pretty. But that didn't affect Dabao's desire to learn. Liu happened to pass by and see Dabao writing. He was bent over with his little butt sticking out, his expression serious and concentrated. For some reason, Liu was reminded of his husband, who often had the exact same expression. He struggled to hold in his laughter until his stomach hurt. But he took another look at Dabao's writing. Liu finally cracked. After being laughed at by his fish dad, Dabao pouted so hard that you could have hung a bottle from his lips. Dabao, let dad teach you. Now that he'd laughed at his son, Liu immediately tried to remedy the situation. Thinking back to the way Prince Jing had taught him, Liu's heart felt like it was filled with honey. Imitating Prince Jing, he held Dabao's soft little hand with his own and started writing. Dabao, follow dad, he said. Just write how I'm writing. Now that Liu was no longer worried about the possibility of a side concubine, he was dealing well with his pregnancy and in great spirits. He wrote quickly. Once he finished a page, he'd stop and let Dabao observe. Look, I am not over here to judge Dabao for his bad writing because number one, he's like 1 year old, and number two, I just started trying to learn Korean calligraphy, and if Chinese calligraphy is anything like that, it is difficult as all hell. So, points to Dabao for even trying. The goodest boy indeed. Dabao was originally looking forward to Liu's writing. Even the Grand Secretaries couldn't stop praising Daddy Prince Jing's writing, so Fish Dad must be on a similar level, oh no. But once Fish Dad finished writing a page, Dabao's dreams were shattered. Fish Dad's writing was even worse than his. Dabao felt cheated. He was no longer willing to let Fish Dad teach him how to write. But Fish Dad had no idea. He was itching to continue teaching, so Dabao turned around so that his little butt was facing Fish Dad, refusing. Leo suddenly realized he was being criticized by his own son. The fish didn't have the word criticism in his vocabulary. Leo scoffed and threw down Dabao's brush, intending to teach the brats who dared judge his fish dad a lesson. Realizing something was wrong, Dabao hurriedly slid down from the table and started running. Leo rushed forward, flipped Dabao around. He blew on his hands to warm them up and started tickling Dabao. Dabao giggled loudly. The adult and child were both having a great time when Mengshi suddenly ran in like his life depended on it. Mengshi caught his breath with a hand resting on the door, crazy with joy. Consort, there's huge news. His Highness has become the Crown Prince. Oh, not realizing they haven't received the news yet. My bad. No way, just like that? He'd expected the Emperor to wait a bit, at least another year or two, or maybe even 4 or 5. After all, the Emperor really cared about his power. Perhaps he'd even test Prince Jing some more. Last time he sent Prince Jing to the western border, so perhaps next it would be the southern border. He really didn't expect the Emperor to appoint him as the Crown Prince so soon. Well, okay, when the Emperor asked Prince Jing to handle official matters, Liya had more or less had an idea. In the book, Prince Jing never became the Crown Prince, but his husband had done it. Though he wasn't officially on the throne, he was very close to it. Liya's eyes were a little wet, but he was genuinely happy for his husband. He was just thinking about how to celebrate after Prince Jing got home when Wang Shi said, "Now that His Highness is the Crown Prince, you're the Crown Prince Consort. The edict will arrive soon." The Emperor also said that after the ceremony he wants to hold another wedding for you and His Highness. Leah's bliss immediately gave way to fear. No way, he had already give birth to 4 fish, plus he had their daughter inside of him, and now he had to get married again? What did His Highness say? He asked. He hoped his husband would reject the Emperor. It was a little embarrassing to get married with a round stomach. Besides, they'd already consummated their marriage twice and held the ceremony once, so it felt weird to do it again. His Highness Wang Shi was about to respond when he spotted his master walking in through the door out of the corner of his eye. Wang Gongong smiled and shook his head. "You can ask him yourself." Look, I understand Leah's thoughts, but also, like, if it's, how should I put it? If it was me and it was a thing of, okay, for some reason my parents couldn't attend my wedding ceremony and then they ask, like, can we hold another one so that we can attend? I'd be like, yeah, sure, because I just want to have those memories with you guys, you know? So I think it's more that than anything else, so I hope Leah realizes that. Recently, Wang Shi had gotten even better at reading his master's expressions. As soon as his master returned, Wang Gongong immediately retreated with the young master in tow. "Tianchi, you're the Crown Prince now?" Liu was delighted to see his husband. He walked over happily, supporting his stomach. He was already starting to show. Mu Tianchi worried every time he saw him walk, so he hurriedly told him to stop, walked up to Leah, and then reached over to support him, encouraging the fish to lean on him. "His Highness, the Crown Prince." Leah winked at him triumphantly. Mu Tianchi had been feeling a little cautious, but the way Xiaoyu was acting made him want to laugh. Having been given the title of Crown Prince, he was one huge step closer to his goal. He knew very well that without Xiaoyu, he might still be a mute prince to this day. Where would this Crown Prince position have been then? "Xiaoyu, everything is thanks to you," he said. "Thank you." That was what he'd wanted to say the most at the morning court. Huh? Are you being polite with me? I already heard Wang Shi say it. "Congratulations, Your Highness. I heard a royal father wants to hold another wedding for us." Thinking of the scale of the wedding back at the western border, Leah's heart started pounding at the thought of all those people. Prince Jing thought he wasn't happy and held his hands nervously. "Because of your current state, I didn't say yes. Do you think I'm mistreating you?" "Really? How could I think that?" Leah burst into laughter. Prince Jing really said no, as expected of his man. They were on the same page even when it came to things like this. Leah was still praising his man in his mind when his man said, "I told Royal Father we can wait until after you give birth and recover. You deserve to have everything in the world." So on the same page. Most supportive husband and present dad ever. Yes, we appreciate that. I have to say, like, I really enjoy this dynamic, and it's not one that we get to see very often in shows. I really enjoy it when there's kind of like a father-son or father-daughter dynamic, or just parent-child dynamic in the main couple, and sometimes like a younger sister or younger brother or actual children, though that one's less common. But I still wish there was more of it because I enjoyed the dynamic so much. A satisfied smile hung on Prince Jing's lips as he made this promise, but Liu, on the other hand, holding the wedding after the birth, he might as well not have said no after all. The Princess of Jinju said that after she gave birth, she felt like a cloth sack that had been emptied out. He was really afraid of getting married as a cloth sack. But looking at Prince Jing's expression, did Prince Jing really like it, even though Liu found it embarrassing? After all, they'd been able to consummate their marriage once again. Never mind, since his husband liked it, he'd deal with it when the time came. It was just drinking the marriage wine, red blankets, and wedding robes. He was experienced when it came to the wedding play. He'd just lose some weight after giving birth. Leah felt his skinny waist and slowly started to look forward to the wedding. Leah's reaction to his husband becoming the crown prince seemed normal. The crown prince himself also thought his consort was very calm, as expected of a corpse spirit. But somehow, in the middle of the night, things went awry. The fish woke up several times, shoving his husband awake and yelling urgently, "Tianchi, you're really the crown prince now?" Wu Tianchi nodded for what felt like the thousandth time, patting Leo on the back and held him. As it turned out, the fish wasn't really calm. He was just slow to react. The pregnancy brain was so happy he could fly. "My husband is the crown prince. Ha ha ha." Fishy dance gif. Oh goodness, this novel truly is ridiculous. I love it so much. I'm just trying to decide, because we're at the end of a chapter now, but we still have a decent amount of time left. So I think we might keep going and maybe just not finish a chapter. The pregnancy brain, no, that needs to be trademarked and put on a t-shirt or something, because that is so funny. Oh goodness, I'm nervous. I just saw the title of the next chapter. Chapter 139, Original Fishy Form. Prince Jing became the crown prince, so Liu became the crown prince consort. In this era, Liu had no family or background. He thought this would cause him difficulty, and the crown prince had been prepared too. If anyone had something to say about the consort, he'd rebuke them right then and there. But not a single official said a word. It wasn't that nobody coveted the position of crown prince consort. After all, once the crown prince became the emperor, the crown prince consort would be the empress. Who wouldn't want to fight for that possibility? But despite the efforts of those people, Prince Jing and his consort's relationship held strong. Prince Jing never even ended up getting a side consort, never mind a side consort. He didn't even have any concubines or servants at all. The emperor was clearly also letting Prince Jing do whatever he wanted. Now that Prince Jing was the crown prince, how could they possibly manage to steal the crown prince consort position? They might even anger the crown prince with their efforts, which wouldn't be worth it. There was no point in making an enemy of the person you were trying to marry. I mean, fair enough. There was something... I also wonder, like, just from the officials' perspective, if they are just assuming that Prince Jing is bi, or if it's just they're not even really thinking about it in that regard. I'm not sure. Though Liu's lack of background was a detriment, he already had 4 sons, and all 4 of them were loved by the emperor. As soon as they were born, the emperor had given them titles and often sat them on his knee. His affection for them was obvious. If anyone else wanted to become the crown prince consort, they'd be offending these young royal grandsons. Nobody dared. So nobody said anything when Liu became the crown prince consort. And so that was that. The crown prince currently lived in his manor. The emperor wanted him to move into the palace, but the crown prince said his manor was fine and that there was no need to make such a huge fuss. Considering that the consort was in the midst of his pregnancy, the emperor decided moving was indeed too much work. Besides, the crown princes of this dynasty hadn't all lived in the palace, so the emperor acquiesced and instead renamed his manor the Crown Prince Manor. The couple still lived there and were simply assigned more guards to match the standards of a crown prince. The emperor gave out all of the titles and honors he intended to and felt very satisfied. Afterward, however, he realized something. Dabao was originally the Prince Jing heir. Now that Prince Jing was the crown prince, Dabao could no longer hold that title. Although being the son of the crown prince was much better than being the son of an ordinary prince, the fact remained that the other children all had titles, but Dabao didn't. The emperor firmly decided that this was a slight to Dabao and could not let it slide. With a wave of his hand, he gave Dabao the title of Commandant of Light Chariots. Tell me he's the favorite without telling me, my word. A standard class, rank 3 position. Okay, if you say so. At first, the emperor had wanted to name him a prince and give him Prince Jing's original title. It would have made a lovely story. But when he told Lu Sheng the idea, head eunuch Luo's knees nearly went soft from the fright. He rushed to convince the emperor to change his mind, so the emperor settled. Oh wow! Damn, kicked her! Hi! Sorry, that really startled me. I hope you're doing well. I love that emoticon though. Commandant of the light chariot sounds like he's some kind of divine. Yeah, no, it very much sounds like it. I'm glad you're doing well. I hope things are sorted now with everything. And also, guys, congratulate Kikta on her marriage. Seeing all the photos was amazing. I thought I needed to say that. Sorry, got totally distracted. Where were we? He'd rushed to convince the emperor to change his mind, so the emperor settled for commandant of light chariots, but even so, the emperor still thought Dabao deserved more. When Liu received the official edict, his mouth kept twitching in disbelief. He'd been really worried the emperor would show too much favor to Dabao and give him the title of crown grandson. What would they do then? Good thing the emperor was still capable of seeing reason. You know, it's not the emperor so much as it is Lu Sheng. We should all be thanking head eunuch Luo. I feel like he is the Wang Shi for the emperor. He's very, very needed and valued. Dabao was a very lucky fish. Everything had gone smoothly for him ever since birth. He'd even helped his father win over his grandfather. How could a child less than 2 years old hold a rank 3 position? Sorry, I'm just realizing, Kikta, did I thank you for that donation, by the way? I feel like I did, but I feel like I might also have been so flustered that I genuinely just forgot, so thank you if I didn't say that already. My bad. Okay, good. Oh, goodness. The true core of their family was clearly Dabao. Having been officially granted titles, they had to go to the palace to thank the emperor, so Liu Ye got ready to leave. He never liked to go outside much to begin with, and since he became pregnant, he was even more careful. But he had no choice but to go to the palace. Earlier, Liu Ye had sent a note to his husband, the crown prince, to let him know. My Kictor, you're killing me! I might actually cry. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Just give me a second. Sorry. I'm not very good with handling these kinds of situations. Sorry, thank you very much. Oh goodness. Oh, I'm feeling so flustered. Oh. Yes, sorry. These two, they are my constant companions. I am so happy with them. I know, like, I am. They were very much guilty pleasures. Actually, one was a gift, and then the other one was very much a guilty pleasure. And I am so happy I gave in to that guilty pleasure. So anyway, thank you. Um, Focus. Okay, earlier Lee had sent a note to his husband, the crown prince, to let him know. He even brought the crystal bottle with the fish body double inside. The emperor had given him the #1 fish in the world title, so he had to thank the emperor for that too. Might as well get all of that done in one trip. Wang Shi accompanied Li Ye into the palace. As the consort was now with a child, Wang Shi picked a round-faced servant girl who knew both martial arts and medicine to stay close by Li Ye's side. They were just about to leave when the crown prince sent a message asking Li Ye to wait a little bit. The servant who came to pass along the message didn't know anything else. Li Ye thought it was weird, but he still listened to his husband and delayed his trip to the palace. I am really hoping that we don't have anything to worry about, but we still have 200 pages left. After about half an hour, the crown prince rushed back into the manor. Li Ye was surprised at first, then smiled. Why are you here? The crown prince smiled back. I'm taking you to the palace. Oh, that's such a hassle. Li Ye kept on saying that, but he had a big smile on his face. Clearly he was thinking something different on the inside. Who didn't like it when their other half was always thinking of them? Prince Jing always personally accompanied him everywhere. Even now that he was the crown prince, this habit remained unchanged. For the last few days, the crown prince had been busy at the Ministry of Rites, but because Li Ye had wanted to enter the palace, he rushed back home. Will this affect you negatively? Li Ye was not so secretly delighted, but knew his husband was always one step away from being criticized. The crown prince smiled easily. No, I've already asked the minister for leave. Li Ye nodded, somewhat understanding. It was fine as long as he got permission. He felt like this minister was very sympathetic towards his subordinates, but he completely forgot about his husband's current status. Even if he hadn't asked for permission, nobody at the Minister of Rites would dare to stop the crown prince. Now that the crown prince had hurried back home just for this, the couple left for the palace together. The crown prince had rushed to the manor on the horseback, but the consort couldn't ride a horse while he was pregnant. Both he and his consort rode in a carriage to return to the palace comfortably. The carriage travelled slowly. By the time they arrived at the palace, the consort had already comfortably taken a nap in the crown prince's arms. My goodness, tell me he is spoiled without telling me, like, just in case we forgot how much dedication he has. We're already here? Li Ye had always thought there was quite a bit of distance between home and the palace, but this time the time passed quickly. Wang Shi, who was following the carriage, tried his best not to laugh. The crown prince knew exactly how fast how fast that wasn't. The crown prince helped Leah off the carriage, and one of head eunuch Law's underlings was already waiting for them. As soon as he saw the crown prince, he bowed, then led everyone to Changqing Palace. Because the consort was pregnant, the servant had prepared a soft pelican for him. The crown prince glanced at it, then shook his head, ordering Wang Shi to bring out the small pelican he'd brought with them from the manor. What? When had his husband prepared this? How come he didn't know? But it meant he didn't have to walk, so the lazy fish immediately sat down. He assumed the crown prince would come to sit with him, and patted the space next to him, but the crown prince remained unmoved. The pelican wasn't as large as a carriage, and the crown prince was afraid of squishing Leah, so he didn't get on. Instead, he pulled open the curtains. That way Leah wouldn't feel cramped inside, and he could keep an eye on his fish. Is the fish gonna fly away? Like, these two are such lovebirds. How long was the journey? I could not fall asleep that quickly. Listen, it depends how tired you are and also how small you are. I remember when I was very, very young, there's a mall that is like 8-ish minutes from my house. And when I was young, I could fall asleep in the time that it took to drive to that mall because it felt like forever. But as an adult, I do judge him a little bit. After the consort sat down, 8 servants from the manor lifted the pelican up and started walking. The crown prince followed alongside. The palace servants had heard that the crown prince and his consort were very affectionate, but they never expected to be slapped in the face with such obvious PDA just from a pelican. Since the crown prince didn't need him, the servant went back to Chengqing Palace first to inform the emperor. The pelican travelled slowly. With nothing else to do, he observed the scenery around him. When they passed by the imperial garden, Leah suddenly spotted something white among the bushes. Are we gonna see the cat again? Leah's heart skipped a beat. Hold on, he said hurriedly. The crown prince ordered the servants to stop, then turned to Leah. That white thing, Leah said. Were his eyes playing tricks on him? It looked like Piao Xue. Back when he was delivering the tiger talisman, Piao Xue had helped him lure away the guards. Afterward, Leah had asked Wang Gongong if Piao Xue had been caught by the guards. The guards had thought Piao Xue was just a feral cat, so they never searched for it around the Cold Palace. Later on, during the battle at Chengqing Palace, the Cold Palace remained relatively untouched. Leah was very happy that Piao Xue hadn't been injured on his account, but because of the bad blood between the Crown Prince and Lady Che and the Marquis of An, Leah couldn't let it show too much. Leah asked Wang Gongong to pass Piao Xue a bag of little dried fish as thanks. Though he hadn't ordered Wang Gongong to do anything else, after the servants at the Cold Palace found out Wang Gongong from the prince's manor cared for this cat, they no longer dared to bully Piao Xue as a result. Oh, thank goodness. Lady Cheer's condition improved a bit as well. Oh, okay, that's cute. Leah didn't hide any of this from the Crown Prince. He told him directly. The Crown Prince was very familiar with his character. Xiaoyue was kind and always repaid a favor. Even if the other party was a cat, he would still do his best to thank them. You can't judge, you married a fish, so let's not go there. He would still do his best to thank them. The Crown Prince trusted him to handle the situation and fully believed in him. On this trip to the palace, Leah had asked Wang Shi to bring some little dried fish, just in case they ran into Piao Xue. Because of this, Piao Xue had been at the back of his mind this whole time. Now that he saw a ball of white in the imperial garden, he automatically assumed it was the cat. Following Leah's gaze, the Crown Prince also saw it. The round-faced servant, Xiao Luo, went over to look. After a while, she came back holding a cat. Because this cat hadn't been checked over, Charlotte was afraid of approaching. She only took a few steps forward so the consort could take a look. Leah immediately recognized Piaxiu. What a coincidence! What's wrong with it? Why was it hiding in the bushes? Charlotte examined Piaxiu carefully. It was very clean, but there was the smell of blood on it. After taking a sniff and examining Piaxiu's body, she discovered that there was a thick layer of gauze on one of Piaxiu's black legs. There was blood on the gauze. Oh no. Poor cat. Poor cat, sorry. Bleh. It's injured, she said. Wangxi moved forward, testing the cat's fur with a silver needle. The needle didn't change color. Wangxi looked towards the crown prince for his decision. Normally, that was enough of a test. Hearing that Piaxiu's leg was injured, though, Leah was a little worried, and he looked at the crown prince pleadingly. And we have an image. Look at it, it's so cute. The poor cat, though. He couldn't resist Leah's large round eyes. He turned and coughed lightly. Take another look. Nothing wrong with being careful. The crown prince ordered Charlotte to hold on to the cat and to not approach. He walked over himself to examine Piaxiu. Seeing the prince, Piaxiu suddenly started yowling pitifully. It bit the gauze on its leg, and the blood slowly started to spread. As a result, the crown prince noticed the injury on its leg. He thought about it for a moment, then said to Charlotte, "Unwrap it." Charlotte carried a medical kit with her, so if there was nothing wrong with the injury, she could rewrap it for Piaxiu. Not daring to discard the crown prince's orders, she immediately unwrapped the gauze. A ball of red cloth rolled out from underneath. Charlotte thought it was weird. Upon further inspection, although there was blood on Piaxiu's leg, there was no injury. The blood had probably come from the fabric. Oh, that's concerning. It was my mistake. Charlotte immediately knelt down to beg for forgiveness. What's wrong? Leah was still in the pelican. He was surprised to see Charlotte suddenly kneeling down. Nothing. We're unwrapping the cat's wound. Don't worry. The crown prince's expression grew dark. Piaxiu hadn't been injured, but he'd been wrapped in gauze to mislead someone into thinking it was injured. There was definitely something suspicious about the thing inside the gauze. Many explanations came to the crown prince's mind at once, but he was afraid of alarming the fish, so he kept his voice steady. With that explanation, Leah calmed down and continued to wait. The crown prince glanced at Wangxi, who immediately pulled Charlotte up. The two of them walked a little further away with Piaxiu and removed the gauze and fabric from its leg. They confirmed that the blood had come from the fabric. Wangxi had seen many things. He could tell that there was something wrong with the fabric. If an unsuspecting person got too close to Piaxiu, they might have touched whatever was on the fabric. Charlotte covered her hand with a handkerchief and opened the fabric up, revealing more and more blood. The blood was incredibly pungent. Charlotte hurried to cover her nose. What is this? Wangxi looked at it carefully. Your Highness, this isn't human blood. This old servant thinks it's dog blood or chicken blood. What's it for? I've heard that people who sometimes use dog blood or chicken blood to drive away evil, especially the blood of a black dog. They better not have harmed any of the animals that we know. Like, I will go to war. Evil? The crown prince had never heard of such a thing. Hiding this so carefully within some gauze, it was all just to drive away evil? Yes, to drive away evil and spirits, said Wangxi. Apparently, if Yao touch such blood, the original form will be revealed immediately. Spirits revealing their original form? The crown prince's expression immediately changed, and he looked at Xiaoyu, who was still waiting for him on the pelican. There was a spirit right next to him. If they hadn't discovered it, Xiaoyu might have touched Piaxiu, then the fabric. Then what would have happened? Okay, but who knows that he is suspected of being a spirit, because that's a very specific and targeted attack. A voice in his head told him Shayir would have transformed in front of everyone. Shayir's original form was a fish. He had thought it was strange that such things would appear on a cat from the Cold Palace, and that they would meet it on their way to the Changing Palace at that. Perhaps someone had discovered Shayir's true identity and wanted to harm him. Okay, what a very cheerful and not concerning in any way whatsoever place to end the chapter and also the live stream. Great. Still, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and we will be back again next week for, if not Saturday, I'm not making any promises, but one can hope, for the next bit of it. And I think we might have like 2 sessions left, if I'm being okay. No, that's maybe a little bit ambitious. Maybe like 3 sessions. But yeah. Anyway, again, thank you guys so much for coming, and I will see you guys next Monday. 再见。